I'm gonna actually be living in this indoor arena until she's tame.
Ryan Rose, 34.
I'm gonna actually be living in this indoor arena until she's tame. And to me, tame is I can walk up and halter her, lead her out of the pen, touch her all over. Once you can do that step, you're kind of just going from being a Mustang to being a horse that needs training. So that's gonna be taming. So I'm gonna be setting up a campsite over here. But right now, I'm about to get started with my very first training session. So wish me luck. So I'm gonna try to go in with a pretty open mind and just feel her out. See where she's at. And if she'll handle me moving around her, which when I was picking manure, she was pretty good about. You can see how comfortable she is there. So this is like what I have in my mind is a little bit of just testing the waters, just seeing what she'll tolerate to start us off here. So I'm not trying to put any pressure on her. I'm just kind of milling around her. And I'm gonna do a little bit of the find your herd game where I will own her space. So finding the herd is putting pressure on them basically until they look at you. But you see how she pretty confidently walks up to me and she's kind of shaking her head there. It could be flies, but it could also be just her doing that. And so there's a part of me that wants to drive her a little bit too, because she does seem fairly confident with it. So let's just see where we're at here. So I got my flag ready to shush her if she gets too confident. But I think she's going to be fairly left-brained. She's wanting to follow that flag. But what I'm doing is I'm exposing her to my body being in different areas of her and moving around her. And then the next step is, so there's like two parts. There's like your tool that you have, and then there's your person. And so what I also have staged is a long stick that I can get her used to my tools being closer to her. And even like that, I actually like that she's willing to walk away from me and have me behind her, building that confidence behind her butt. I have some concerns that she's going to be very protective of her hindquarters because of that scar. And a lot of people, I think, overlooked her because of that scar. But I had my wife, Emily, there, who's an equine physical therapist, and she thought it would be okay. And so I liked everything else about her. And so yeah, we ended up with her here. But see, I feel like she's pushing me there a bit. And so I'm going to hold my ground, and I might even go ahead and own her space there a little bit. But I find that very interesting, like how she's a little bit like maybe testing the waters about pushing me out of her space. So obviously I don't want to scare her. I want to make friends with her. But you have to establish the parental role, so to speak. We need to make sure that I'm the one leading the dance here and not her pushing me around. If you guys would like to follow this mare's whole journey, you can do that on my Patreon page. I'm going to be posting almost every minute of the training sessions on there. So if you guys want to follow along, you're going to really enjoy it. So you can also ask me questions about your horse, and we post a new video there every Wednesday. So go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. Let's get back to the video. So now here's the first test of like, I'm putting my tool in her bubble, okay? So you can see by her reacting to that she's noticing it, but it wasn't too much that she couldn't handle it. Now, again, I'm not trying to teach her to face up. So when she faces me right now, I'm not going to retreat. At some point I will do that, but at this point I'm just trying to actually have her get comfortable with me being all around her before I teach her to face me with two eyes. So that's kind of key. So the two things are, can I move all around her and test out where those thresholds are with my body? And then the second one is noticing what she can handle with my tools being around her. Now, the big secret here is she just walked away there. And so the pressure is not going to come off just because she walked away. Now there she'll stand still. Now the pressure will go off. She's moving again. So I'm going to lift the flag and just move this around her. I like that little trot she's got there. And there's nothing wrong with her moving her feet. She should be pretty fresh right now. She's been standing in pens for several days. Even at the holding facility, I imagine she was probably, in a fairly confined area. So her getting a little exercise, a lot of times that can help a horse think through things better. Now, she faced me and looked at me there, but I didn't release because it was a bit of a reaction. So if she wants me to take the pressure off here, she needs to relax and stand still is kind of what I'm going for here. But that's a little different than what we normally do at Liberty with just getting them to face you. Now there, she softened to it a bit, so I'll take it away. She is facing me. But again, that's not what we're totally going for here. So now I'm going to ask her to move. So now I'm getting behind the drive line and I'm driving her. Boy, she's big. She's really tall. Taller than I was thinking she was going to be. Really good. So now I'll retreat. This is my first kind of big retreat. Walk away from her because I like that she didn't face up there. She just got settled with me driving her. So now I'm going to make this a really, hopefully, easy win for her and drive her front end. There we go. So again, not going for facing up. So I'm going to establish my position. So that was the first kind of moment of her going. What's weird is any idea that the predator has to them feels like a trap. So what you find, even though there's a big open door to the left, you'll find that a lot of times they'll double back to the right because they feel like that's a trap to the left, even though that's where the opening is. So I am driving her, but I'm also, because my belly button's pointed at her, I am putting a little pressure, but I'm also trying to get her used to this as well. She kind of wore the pressure there. That was good. We'll take that away. Again, we're just monkeying around, establishing a little bit of control with the feet. There's a little lick and chew. I'm going to leave her alone on that. So even though I'm not trying to teach her to face up, she's ending up kind of learning to face up. But as long as I keep working around back and forth on her sides, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. So I'm just going to look for a little bit of improvement with this pattern, and then I'll switch gears to another pattern. Again, she's not in trouble for just drifting a little bit here and there. So this is getting her used to my body, getting closer to her. And again, right there when she's drifting away, that's where it's really tempting to take the pressure off of her. But that's not what I'm trying to teach her. That would be me, if I backed off right there to keep her from leaving, that would teach her, get bothered, and then I'll leave you alone. I'm going to teach her to get unbothered, and when she gets settled, that's when I'll leave her alone. Now I'm going to release her in a different spot this time. Almost. I kind of wanted to be a little further over, but no big deal. There's a little lick and chew, so she's feel like she's starting to learn to get relief here when I take that pressure off with the flag. And I like how close I am. I'm fairly close to her. Now, I could probably end up doing this for quite a while before there's much more of a change. So I think what I'm going to do now is switch gears. I'm going to get a longer pole. Could somebody hand me that pan fishing pole? And now the switch that's going to happen is now I'm going to keep my body further away from her. I'm going to use this to let my tool, which is, the horse is going to see this as an extension of my arm. I'm going to use this to try to tame the space around her a little more. So with my body further away, I'm going to help get her comfortable with things being close to her, even though I'm not closer to her. The other thing that I can do with this is I can have a little bit more precise control about moving her nose where I want it to go. And then eventually I'm going to rub her with this. But we might be a little ways off of that still. So this is just it's called a pan fishing pole. You can buy these on Amazon or Cabela's, things like that. And then I just tie a little plastic bag on the end. And so what's great about this is she can run away and leave, and it's not going to get further. It's going to stay the same distance from her. There, she kind of looked at it, so I'll take it away. And I just want to get a feel for her, where she's soft, where she's not. Are there parts of her body that she's more protective over? But that first touch, when this is actually touching her and rubbing her body, a lot of times there's a pretty significant change that happens when that happens. So I'm kind of just drawing the outline of her body with it. I don't want to get, one of the other important things to note is when you're handling really green horses or Mustangs, you want to keep things up where they can see it really well and away from their feet. Because at this stage, it would be very easy to teach her to kick at things. And so I'm not going to even think about her legs until the rest of her body is very solid. Then you just work your way down their leg, retreat it. A little bit further, retreat it. You don't go right for their leg. Very, very important pro tip there. Keep your tools up. So she's handling that pretty well. Just letting that flag touch her a little bit. This step went pretty darn quick compared to a lot of horses. A lot of horses, this step will take longer. This is one of the faster ones that I've seen. But touching them with this can easily feel like tickling them with it. And so I try to touch areas that are less sensitive, like their mane, their withers. But That's a really good sign that she's handling it that much already. How's it going, Marty? Good. Did you come to help me tame the Mustang? She might eat it. A lot of them aren't willing to try new things, but some are. I want to work around her face a little bit here. It'd be really cool if she could figure out that this thing could help shush the flies away from her. Oh, that was great. Interesting, huh? But we're not too many minutes in, and so for me to be able to walk around her like this and already be touching her with the pole, we're off to a really good start. And so if any of you guys think that me living with her and just like I'm gonna work her 24 hours a day nonstop, that's not at all the case. I'm gonna break this up into a bunch of little mini sessions, but I'm just gonna be spending a lot of time. There's a lot of things that you can way overdo with a horse, but one of the things you cannot overdo with a horse is spending what we call undemanding time, where you're just hanging out with them, being with them, but not asking them for anything. And so most of the thing I'm gonna be doing over the next couple days is spending undemanding time, and then that'll be peppered in with some training sessions. So she will have plenty of food and water and rest, and you guys don't have to worry about that. Oh, you're brave. I'm really happy to see she's not really defensive around that scar. I was a little bit worried that that might be a thing. And that's really big when you can just kind of present it in front of them and they'll touch it. So I'll leave her alone there. The other thing you got to spend a lot of time doing with Mustangs is getting them used to things being above them, because that's obviously where we're going to be riding. So we're going to get to be doing a lot of work with that. But even just using my stick here to kind of tame the space around her and above her can be really helpful steps. All right. Well, I'm going to give her a little break now. It's not going to be long before I come on back in, but I just accomplished two pretty important tasks of being able to get my body closer to her and walk around her, and then also first touch here with the stick. So we're going to call that a successful first session. All right, so as you guys can see, I got my campsite set up here, so we are fully committed to living with this Mustang until she's tame. I got my cot, I got a little stove, I got the porta potty all set up, got some drinks, and got a cell phone for my wife to bring me some food as it comes up, and we're gonna keep this show going. Second session with the horse, so I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of repeat the first thing that I did with her, and hopefully there's a little bit of improvement, maybe a little bit closer to her, something like that. then a lot of times working the touch, establishing that contact with the pole just allows you to just inch your way in a little closer. But what I don't try to do, one of the key things is you can approach, like I'm using, like my hand is representing the stick and flag. You can move this in and out, and then you can put that away and move your feet closer. But what I don't try to do is this. That can be a lot of pressure when both things are kind of coming at them. So watch, so I'll work her with the flag here a little bit, of getting her comfortable with that. Get a little touch. Now I'll put that away, and then I'll just move my feet a little bit closer. And you can see I'm right on that line there. Now I'll bring the stick back down. But getting that contact, that physical touch with the stick, just oftentimes lends itself to being able to get closer and closer to them as you go. And there was several that were actually even a lot bigger than her. How I ended up picking her is we drew numbers, and I drew number 34, and there was 40 competitors and 60 horses. So I made a list of 35 horses so that I for sure had something on my list. And I would have been fairly happy with most of those horses in the 35 range. But there was about 20 of them that I really wouldn't mind having. 10 that were on my number 1 list and 10 that were on my number 2 horse list. And so I had these lists made, and then I went through and tried to categorize them and rank them and what number. But I started with group 4, and then group 3, then group 2, and I hadn't gotten to group 1 before they started letting people pick their horses. So number 1 got to pick, number 2, number 3. Well, it went fast. I mean, within 10 minutes, it was my turn, or less than 10 minutes, it was like 5 minutes, it was my turn to pick. And all I had written down was a number and a color. Well, by the time it was my turn to pick and I'm on the spot, I cannot remember which horses are which ones on my number 1 list, because I had like 8 of the 10 horses were still up for grabs, and I just was not expecting that for the draw. So she was one of the horses that I remembered as being one that I liked. And I remembered she had a scar and everything, but I just really liked her size and color, and seemed like, she, you can't really tell their personality in the pens, but she just stood off by herself and seemed pretty content, with everything. She was also one of the horses that would look to the outside. A lot of them would just go stand with their butt towards you and their head away from you. She would stand and look at you like she's doing now. So anyways, I remembered her, so I just went ahead and picked her. And so far, I'm very, very happy with my pick. And we didn't get it on video, but when they first put her in the chute, I saw maybe 6, 7, 8 horses get run through the chute. She was the only one that reared up and almost crawled out of the chute. And the chute was probably 8 foot high. And so I was like, oh boy, I might have got my hands full here. But luckily, I think that scar scared off a lot of people. But I think that really tells her story. It's like she was a wild horse for 3 years. And, it's not bunnies and rainbows out there in the wild. Like they face a lot of adversity with storms and finding water and finding food and predators and all kinds of things going on out there. So I have no idea what happened, but let me know in the comments what you guys think might have happened to get that nasty scar on her hindquarters there. So during the competition, there's a body conditioning score is the first thing I think you get. And then there's an in-hand obstacle course that you do where you just demonstrate leading, turning them, picking up the feet, I think trail loading maybe. And then there's a riding test that you do. And then the top 10 from that go on to the finale where you can do a freestyle. There's some compulsory patterns you have to do. And then you have time for a freestyle artistic part of it. So I got to come up with a plan for that. But I think with her eating grain this early, I think we'll do pretty well with her conditioning score. So for now, I'll probably only give her grain when I'm here with her. No longer just give her grain through the fence. So if you want your feed, you can eat it with me. Some people will deprive them of water and only water them when they'll finally drink out of it. To me, that it could be helpful in terms of the horse wanting to come to you for water, but I don't like the risk of them colicking or having issues with that, so I would be more inclined to just give them water, free choice, and if they'll eat grain, use that, or some alfalfa. And you can see I'm pretty close to her now. But the other thing that's interesting is my focus is on the stick and where that's touching her. I'm not like my eyes and everything locked in on her and what she's doing. I'm like my focus is on just trying to shush flies off the rest of her body. And that subtle little change in our focus and our intention makes them feel a lot more comfortable. If all I was doing is thinking about her and her head and thinking about getting closer to that, she would feel a lot more pressure from me. So it's kind of like if you got a horse that you're wanting them to get in the trailer, the worst time to work on your trail loading is when you're already late for a show. It's like work on the trail loading when you can really be in a good frame of mind and not be in a hurry to get it done. Because as soon as they feel that from you, that feels very predatorial to them. And so that's going to bring up their defense systems a lot more than when you can really just be very casual about everything. And then I'm switching sides frequently. That's part of the theme and the strategy. Wow. I just love the way she was looking at me right there with a very soft eye. I'm like, oh, you're kind of fun, kind of interesting. And I'm going to leave her alone on that note. So anytime you get ahead and make some progress, it's a good spot to quit. I'm going to be out here all day. So we got all the time in the world. And so just another spot to quit her on. I'm going to get her some fresh water and we'll just give her a little break. I knew I'd have her eaten out of my hand the first day. I don't think I knew exactly what to expect with this idea of living with her. But what's interesting is I feel super relaxed and calm just coming into the pen. Because I think normally when you're doing a session, you're pretty focused and you're like, got all these goals you're trying to get done. But here it's like, well, I'm here for a while, so we're just kind of taking our time. I don't feel any rush yet. I'm concerned about tonight sleeping in here though, because there's a lot of flies. So I think I'm gonna put a fan on me and hopefully the flies don't drive me nuts too much. Emily just brought me really nice dinner. I got a couple of egg wraps with bacon and avocado. Delicious, thank you, Emily. So lots of support here. Starting to get later, eat some dinner and probably do one more session with her and then we'll be hitting the hay. All right, so we're gonna do our third session today. I've been in there with her maybe around an hour total, and I feel really happy with the progress we've made in that amount of time. But we're just gonna keep chipping away at it. I'm really tempted to put a rope on her because I feel like we could make a lot of progress, but I don't want to rush this step, but I'm just super happy with how it's going. And a person could, if you didn't have any skills roping, there would be nothing wrong with just taking your time doing this, but they are going to have to learn to follow a feel at some point. And so I would say maybe the more skilled you are, the earlier you can do it and have it be successful. The less skilled you are with the rope, probably the more you take your time building confidence here, the easier that part can go. But that's just going great. So I think I'm going to drive her around just a little bit more. And then get her some sliders. She's letting me in closer and closer. A lot of times if you can keep contact on their body, when you change positions, like sometimes you can go from their face to further back. That was great. I think I'm actually going to get her used to my rope here a little bit. We're really close to being ready to put the rope on her, but I just kind of want to experiment with, can I get close enough to start rubbing her with my hands before I go to the rope? And so since we're only a few hours into this, I just kind of want to see where I can get with as little bit as, doing less first. So this buggy whip has this longer lash on it, and that can allow me to move that around her body eventually. So yeah, I'll give her a break now and we'll let her just investigate the obstacles. The one obstacle I would try to avoid is a tarp for now, because if they step on a tarp and they're not ready for it, it can really scare them and you'll have a heck of a time getting them on a tarp again. So you really don't want them going over a tarp until they're very ready for it. But these barrels and stuff, we can let her investigate at her own pace. Just something different. Guys, I don't know if this is getting my face or not, but we are sleeping with the Mustang. So I'm super happy with the progress we made today. I think she's really left brain, pretty confident, pretty easy. I'm very happy we ended with her touching me for the first time. And I'll work on, I think, not roping her, but like setting a rope on her. Because I think that will progress things a lot faster. It's like, I could spend more, several days following her around on the ground, eventually get a halter on her, but she's going to have to learn to follow a feel from steady pressure anyways. So, yeah, I'm going to put a rope on her and we'll have the whole day to work at it. And maybe by the end, I'll be sleeping in my own bed tomorrow. All right, night. All right, morning, everybody. Sleeping on a cot, not the same as a purple mattress. I learned that. And it also got really cold last night. I do have a confession to make. It's still real early in the morning and it's cold. So I went and got a jacket from the house. I didn't want to wake Emily up. Depends if how bright this phone's making it look in here. It's not It's not bright in here at all. This phone's making it look bright. I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, it went good. Unfortunately, she got scared every time I moved because she was right up by the fence here eating on the hay net, that hay net behind me. So that was noisy. But every time I rolled over or something, it would spook her. And so I didn't like that so much, but yeah, interesting. So today we got some work to do. We got to get going. I got to get a rope on her, and it's like I couldn't fall asleep thinking about it. I got to get a rope on her and get her following the field. It could take a while putzing around with trying to halter her at liberty, but we're gonna put a rope on her today. So I just gotta wait for a camera person. Joining me for breakfast. Or I'm joining her, I guess. I'm having coffee. But this has been really nice, taking our time, going slow, but feeling like I'm making a lot of progress with her confidence towards me. We haven't really done anything hard yet. So I'm thinking when I put the rope on her, that's gonna be a pretty significant challenge. So stay tuned for that. But getting a prey animal to follow a feel is one of the most innate instincts they have, is to pull back into pressure. And so the more you can teach your horse to give to steady pressure in as many ways as possible, the better. That is really one of the secrets to getting a horse gentle, is teaching him to really understand and accept steady pressure. So, big day in store. I'm thinking about Maverick. Think about the name Maverick.